The president says one thing and he does another. You know, the president's saying that, and his energy secretary, Secretary Chu, has been very clear, and he's the mouthpiece for the administration. That's his job, and he's been very clear that our fuel prices need to continue to go up to where they are in line with European nations, and that would be $8 to $9 a gallon.
But we're not a European nation. Are we shipping fuel to China?
Would you turn that and film him? And send that to your people.
Are we sending fuel to China?
We're not a European nation. I agree.
We're not.
Well, one of the things
I would never get that.
one of the things that bothers me, obviously, is that I think the Keystone Pipeline is probably the best example that we've seen in a long time. The president spent the first 2 years talking about why we needed stimulus, why we needed bailouts. But stimulus, primarily, he was talking about why we needed it, because we needed shovel-ready projects. Sure. Well, the largest shovel-ready project in American history is the Keystone Pipeline. The pipe has already been produced, and despite what his administration says, the environmental, the EIS studies have all been done. There was one particular county that had a problem with the path of the pipeline in Nebraska. That was solved and settled. They went around that county, no problem. It's done. It's ready. But again, I talk about those environmentalists. And I talk about where they are and the stronghold they have on the president. Now, the thing that I have a problem with, though, I don't think it's just about preservation. There's also, I think, an effort to cap the potential of America. Because let me tell you, if you cared about the environment, you certainly wouldn't want to do this. You certainly wouldn't want for Canada to have to build a pipeline all the way from the Canadian sands, across the Canadian Rockies, build that pipeline all the way to the Pacific Ocean, pump that oil into the bellies of tankers, and then take those ships and let them navigate North Pacific all the way to a country that has a woeful environmental record called China, where they're shutting down, where they're building one coal plant a week, while our president is shutting down the coal industry with his help of Lisa Jackson and the EPA to drive up fuel costs, home heating, whether we're talking about home heating or whether we're talking about gas. And this is going to affect everyone. Whether you're a 12-year-old mowing grass this summer to try to go on that school trip, or whether you are, or whether you have a trucking company or you're running logwoods, it's going to affect everyone. And the president's been very clear. If we institute enough pain, enough hurt on the American people and their wallet, then we will force them to get off the dependency of oil. And I'm sure you're going to be hauling logs from the ramp to the mill with a two-seater bike.
Like a truck.
Yeah, that'll work. Sure, we'll put we'll put satellites into space with wind.
When is Congress going to get smart and get good with EPA?
Well, look, I'm no fan of what Ms. Jackson's doing with the EPA. And when you talk about EPA and how sinister their plan is, nothing's more sinister than point source when it comes to water for loggers. You won't have to apply to the EPA for a permit to build a road into your ramp. What's that going to do to you? But the Ninth Circuit, the president this week took a shot at the Supreme Court, talked about judicial activism. Where was the president's concern about judicial activism when the Ninth Circuit Court handed down the point source ruling that said that you have to file a permit with the EPA? It's again says one thing and does another, but it's amazing. It's pretty consistent.
Didn't he point Kagan, the judicial activist, to his Supreme Court?
And the president has a right. Let me say this: I disagree with the president on just about everything, but I respect the office. All right, that office is the image of America, and I'll continue to debate him, and I'll continue to discuss his policies, and I'm going to make whoever my opponent is they're going to have to defend the president.
Well, is anybody trying to do anything about the cost of fuel or other than
Well, I think-
aggravate him, and that's all you can do?
I think this. I think the president is clearly it's the largest bully pulpit in the world. The president has enormous power, and I think that the president is in a position to do the greatest help, but he's also in the position to do the greatest harm. Because I'm one of 435. And my votes are very clear. I mean, last summer, I voted on the act of what we call getting the Gulf back to work. H.R. 1229, 1230, 1231. Those three bills really put Americans back to work because the moratorium on the Gulf is killing Louisiana. Killing Louisiana. The president talks about oil production. So much of that production is occurring in North and South Dakota on private land. And he wants to take credit for something he didn't do. Again, you know what, I hear that from my brother. I mean, there's a lot of trucks. I hear this from my brother, and I know
all of the Allen fuel and killing everybody.
Yeah. Now there's some things that I think we as a country could do and should do because of the amount of natural resources we have in the area of just natural gas. I mean, we have some of the largest natural gas reserves in the world. In the world. Natural gas is good for the environment. Natural gas is good for the engines. It is. And I helped this. I know this year I helped Tallahassee, Leon County apply for a Tiger grant to convert their vehicles from diesel to natural gas. And they did a wonderful job of putting together this plan. And they talked about the longevity. The life of a vehicle would go from 11 years to 15 years. The cost of gas. And what this Tiger grant was to do was to help them convert to natural gas. It would be good for us because, as you know, over at Berg Pipe in Panama City, Berg Pipe produces the pipe. So not only would it be good for the citizens and good for the machines and the cost of the gas, but it would create jobs, because Berg Pipe would continue to produce. It would all be good, but unfortunately this president issued 2 Tiger grants through the Department of Transportation, and one didn't come here.
Well, isn't he a conservative? Isn't he for using the natural getaway?
The president?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like a conservative. Yeah, he may talk sometimes like one, but I've told my family, look, don't listen to what he says. Watch what he does. Watch what he does, and it's because he's.
So Tallahassee didn't get the grant.
Tallahassee didn't get the grant. 2 congressional districts got the grant. I believe it was Congressman Alcee Hastings, South Florida, and Congresswoman Corrine Brown from Jacksonville. So they got the 2 Tiger, and I don't know what their Tiger grants were for. Our Tiger grant that we applied for just for the Leon County Tallahassee area was to convert to natural gas. I don't know what theirs was for. I know Corrine Brown is just screaming and really wants that bullet train. And so I don't know what, By the way, just on the bullet train, the governor turned down the bullet train money, the $3 billion, and that money went to California. California started a bullet train process that had an estimated cost of $47 billion. I saw an article last month that it has now exceeded $100 billion of actual cost. So, kind of like if you're not careful, you see a rat take the cheese on the rat trap, and
well, it's a money losing process.
Sure,
the bullet train will never sustain itself.
Yeah.
It can't support itself.
Yeah. Well, the cost.
Tax dollar.
Yeah, the cost. And let me say this, and it's similar to us. Probably the thing that's most similar to that is Amtrak. And you know what? I think that I think rail is good. I think rail, we can cargo and for passengers, that's great. But when we've got an Amtrak rail section running through our district, that was the highest subsidized section that a ticket one ticket is subsidized to over $400. Now, Amtrak as a whole, for every dollar in ticket sales, they produce $2 in expenses. Last year alone, Amtrak lost $60 billion just in food service.
What food they eat?
It's just not.
Obviously not very good.
Shut that up.
Southern District.
So anyway, I think that's
I represent the Southern District for the benefit of the crowd. I met with the representative down at the restaurant. I had lunch with him, and we sat down and looked him eyeball to eyeball. And I had, I'll make this statement, a 3-point question for you from Representative Southerland. And it was, one was on our usage and benefits that we received from the National Forest. And number 2 was the Department of Transportation on their holding back on the funds for our construction of our roads and bridges. And to the seniors of our county, or our nation, I've never, in all my life, I've never heard a congressman or a senator in the United States House recommend that they remove the cap on Social Security. If they would remove the cap, they'd serve a lot of the ills that they are going to face with Social Security. I paid Social Security all my life, and many years I never was able to make enough money to stop paying it during that calendar year. But now I think it's about $106,000 if you earn, then from there on you're Social Security free. But we got people in this country that make millions of dollars, and if they had to pay the Social Security benefits off of their earnings that you and I have had to pay, then Social Security would be in a heck of a lot better shape than it is.
Yeah, I think, and we have, and Commissioner, thank you for having lunch with me and coming down and sharing with me, your points. I think I addressed my concerns with the production out of the National Forest. And let me say this, with the department, I want to be very fair with the department. We're having offline communications on how to improve that. The challenge is they work for the president. You can figure that one out. The second thing, as far as the transportation bill, one of the things that I think the transportation bill that we produced out of the House does is, first of all, it's a 5-year bill, producing 5 years of certainty. Again, if you're satisfied with 18 months, you never run a business. That's not enough. So we needed 5 years of certainty. One of the things that the transportation bill does is the transportation bill that's struggling to get through. It makes rail and transit stand on their own 2 feet. The problem with our the trust fund, the gas tax that comes, is transit, who doesn't produce any revenue, just takes from that fund. And when you're a donor state like Florida, for every dollar we collect and send to Washington, we only get 87 cents back. So we donate 13 cents. So there's some inequities there that states like Florida, we kind of take it on the chin compared to other states. Another thing that transportation bill does is it did send more power down to the states. When I ran the first time, and since I've been there, I've tried to support legislation that reaffirms the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment is states' rights. And that basically says that no authority that is not clearly outlined in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, and that basically is the rights and the responsibilities of Congress, that if it is not listed there, then that falls to the states. And that everything else is their responsibility. But what's happened is the federal government is trampling on that 10th Amendment. So the transportation bill, with that in mind, and that of Chairman Micah, was to honor the 10th Amendment and push more down to the states. Because it's the states, as you know, they may get the funds, but it's the states that construct the roads. It's the states that maintain the roads. And so we needed them to have more say, rather than a bureaucrat 1,000 miles away who's never traveled nor will ever travel on those roads. I believe that we need to have in that bill, we need to streamline the permitting process. You know, it takes 14 years from approval of a project to the completion of a project. 14 years for a DOT project. That's incompetent. But the EPA loves those approvals because that means they get to work and be in a roadblock for 6 solid years. So what we did is we said, we shrunk that in half. We said no longer can you do that. That this transportation bill mandates literally cut in half the bureaucracy and the red tape of permitting for a project. Those are some good reforms. And so I hear you. I mean, my heart is your heart when it comes to giving the states more authority to let us pave the roads and let us have the power and more say than somebody from Washington, D.C. But we have, and then lastly, you were talking about Social Security. There are so many inequities in our tax system. Our tax system is probably the most perfect vehicle to redistribute wealth in America today. So, in the Republican budget, we closed loopholes. Not because it's Republican or Democrat, because it's right. In the Republican budget, we go from 39% tax rate for the corporations down to 25%. You know we're the highest tax rate, almost 40% is our corporate tax rate in the United States. We are the highest corporate tax rate in all of the developed world. Does that make you want to come here and do business? And then when you come here and do business, you know you're going to have to pay 40% tax rates, and you got to fight Lisa Jackson and the EPA? Really? You want to come here? I mean, it's ridiculous. We're going to be like Detroit. You want a picture? You want a picture what Max and his friends would do if they had control over the whole country? Go do a Google search on Detroit. Detroit has had every progressive liberal idea. They've held every seat in every elected position, be it superintendent, city commission, county commission, mayor. They've had it all. They've taken every grant, every possibility, every government handout, every entitlement. They've had it all. If you want to know what world would look like, go learn about Detroit. There's a greater likelihood that in Detroit, a young person will go to prison than graduate from high school. The median home price is $5,500. Okay? That is the vision. That is the vision. Okay? And so after an auto company can be taken over by the federal government and stripped away from its bondholders, when it has a decent quarter, they're going to hand out $7,000 bonuses to their union employees. Because in Detroit, and in that vision, in that world, in that place that somehow attracts them, they pick and choose winners. It's kind of like God. That's His responsibility, not the President of the United States. But if you look at the President, he's been brutally consistent. The President has said, if you elect me, I will fundamentally transform America. That's his words. I didn't say that. And I'm not making that up. The President said, I will fundamentally Now, what does fundamentally mean? I think that is to drill down to the DNA of what America is all about. It is to absolutely go in and molecularly change the way we're made. I think the President loves what America could be if he got his way. But I'm telling you, there's some parts to that DNA that we need to talk about more, that we need to identify more. And these parts are despised and hated by many in Washington, D.C. First of all, the acknowledgement that we are a nation under God. We are. You know, George Washington himself said that it is impossible to govern a people apart from God and the Bible. I'm sorry for some that he may have said that and it offended you. But he said it. Tell him if you have a problem with that. And if you look at this country from day one, day out, if you look at us, that's part of our DNA. And we don't want, and another thing that we believe in earned success. Earned. Not cheated, or lied about, or shortcuts, or fraudulent success. We don't believe in that. We believe in earned success. That you're rewarded based on merit. You're rewarded based on effort. Understanding that all the time, that some days the ball bounces your way and some days it doesn't. But with hard work and honest dealings, day in and day out, consistency, certainty, I think those are conservative values, by the way. Especially, I can tell you, I married Susan, my wife, for 25 years. I met her in first grade. And we've been together our whole life. Steady plodding. Not 18 months. Steady plodding. Steady plodding. Those are values that have always been a part of the American story. And those are the parts that are under attack. You see, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but we won't talk about that on planet Earth today. 400 Christians are slaughtered today because of their faith in Jesus Christ. But that's not going to be on the nightly news because we have to be tolerant. We have to be tolerant with everybody except the Christian message. We got no tolerance for that. It is time for us to get up from our easy chairs and to reconnect with our past. Learn from our past, because there have been mistakes in our past. And forge a brighter future for our children and our grandchildren. And it starts with that $16.3 trillion figure. Where we got to honor hard work. We got to honor honesty. And I trust, I'll be honest with you, I don't want anything so bad that I got to lie to get it. My mama told me, growing up, son, somebody that'll lie to you will steal from you. We deserve better. You deserve better. I won't lie to you. And I won't steal from you. I may tell you bad news, because when I go to the doctor, if it's bad, I want to know. I got things I got to say. I got things I got to do. I got to get my house in order. Tell me the truth. I deal with truth. But if you lie to me, I don't know. I'm telling you the truth. And there's some ugly truth in some of these video pictures. Ugly. The American people deserve the truth. And when my run is done, and the good Lord that I believe in sends me back to Panama City, back to where I get to spend the night every night in the same bed with Susan, and I get to get involved in my family business that my grandfather started almost 60 years ago, which was the American dream. $3,000 of borrowed money, 6th grade education, an honorable discharge from the Navy, having served his country. Couldn't afford a house and a business, so the business was downstairs and my grandparents lived upstairs. And every Friday night, me and my little brother Tim, who's a logger, got a degree in forestry from Lake City Junior College. Tim and I would spend the night with Nana and Dee. That's what we call them, Nana and Dee. And they'd take us down the street and we'd eat tally-ho hamburgers. Tally-Ho Drive-In is still right there on Harrison and 15th Street. And if we ate all our food, they'd take us down 11th Street to the junior store where we'd get an ice and some candy. And we'd go back to the funeral home, and when we go back to the funeral home, there were families there all night. Because back then, you had wakes all night. And that coffee pot was burning. And we drank coffee all night long. And we loved people. And we learned about people. And when we walk with you for 4 days, we get pretty close. And that's what I learned about really what it means to be a part of a community. A place to call home. And I love home. I was criticized by some for my love of home. They said, if you love home so much, go home. Isn't it high time that we sent representatives to Washington, D.C. that love their districts more than they love life inside of the Beltway of Washington, D.C.? You know what? So I wear that like a badge of honor. I love North and Northwest Florida. My family's been here over 200 years. My grandmother was born in Bascom. And it's a great place to call home. It's an honor to serve you. It's an honor to represent you. We're certainly not perfect, but we will continue to serve you as best we can. Government is not about you serving it. It is about it serving you. And so we're trying to reverse that trend. We will have opposition. Strong, hard opposition. But I think it's going to be okay. Thank y'all for being here today. We've been on the road all day, and we've still got events tonight, so we're going to hit the road and go and touch more people and hug necks and hopefully tell the truth. I want to say this in closing. I have people ask me all the time, what can we do? What can we do? Because people want to do something. Americans want to do something. If you love this country, you want to do something. And I tell them, look, stay active, be engaged, support people that you believe in, but more importantly than anything else, don't lose your children. Always have more influence on your children and your grandchildren than anybody else. You know, much of the battle that this administration is waging is against the family. You know, you loggers, there's a push for you to not be able to take your sons that are 15 and 16 years to the logwoods. And the dads can't take their sons with them as they go through the pass to go fishing. It's not just an attack on small business. It's an attack on everything we are. So we're going to continue to work hard. But you need to continue to make sure that no one has more influence over your children and your grandchildren. Teach them about freedom. Teach them about how freedom does not come unless there's first a great sacrifice. Whether you're talking spiritual freedom or whether you're talking political freedom, it requires sacrifice.
I want to follow up on that. I have a son that's about 40, and I play with the grandchildren, and he notices it. And he said, Dad, you're making memories.
That's right.
That's what you're
That's
making
right.
memories.
And I got to tell you, the older I get, when we do get 46, the older I get, the smarter my mom and dad get. And that's just true. I want to thank the sheriff. I want to thank y'all for being here. It's always kind of, we've had wonderful, wonderful support from our sheriff departments and our police departments. We were suggested after the event out in Arizona. We were involving Congresswoman Gabby Giffords that anytime we have a public meeting where we're going to bring the public together for the public's protection, not just our own, us and our staff, but the Capitol Police and the Sergeant of Arms, and really suggested that we reach out to our law enforcement and have them here just as a steady presence. And I thank you so much for always coming, and we try not to go to the well too much, but we appreciate y'all's presence. So thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. My brothers make sure that.
Yeah,
My mama has some say too. I come home and I fly up and like that. Well, have it, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you being very good. I love down home. And I need this. We're needing to. You're staying busy, aren't you? You know what? After I met with you, I went back and looked at
So Max, how long have you done with the party?
Interned for a while, and I just started doing this a month ago.
So do you have anybody besides Steve, or is Steve your sole?
He's focused right now.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Well, I need, if I can stay away from that, oh my God. Oh, that's all right. We'll do it again. I'll see you. I may not see all this.